Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the program today, the president proposing a guest worker program causing a lot of consternation. What's really happening on the border between Arizona and Nevada? Ray Hager has the rundown.
Thanks, Sam. Today's guest is Tim Peters. He runs surveillance of undocumented workers who come across our borders and into Nevada.
And coming up on the Power Pundit panel today, Fred Hillerby, Bill Welch, and Dick Gammick. It's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
In part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
Here at the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, we focus on attracting high-tech companies to northern Nevada. One vital amenity provided to companies at TRI is a connection to a complete digital fiber network. This gives the ability of unlimited bandwidth and voice services to every business. And what's charged for the installation of this valuable asset? Nothing. Zero. Nada. And that's a pretty good deal. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevadans.
Something spectacular has taken wing not far from Reno or Lake Tahoe, and never far from your mind. An escape of fine dining and legendary golf. Introducing the resort at Red Hawk. And at the center of it all, we've feathered our nest with new villas that have elevated Red Hawk to the status of a premier resort. The resort at Red Hawk, a beautiful new arrival in northern Nevada. Nevada Newsmakers is sponsored in part by the Nevada Beer Wholesalers Association.
As an employer, did you know you can be held liable for negligent hiring? A background screening by Employer Links can uncover criminal records, like alcohol and drug convictions. It can verify the applicant's education, driving records, and professional licenses. Employer Links can check civil records, registered sex offender records, and social security fraud. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
I tell you, John, this industry has really changed.
Tell me about it.
You seemed to do pretty well last year. What's your secret?
No secrets. Although I'll tell you something. The smartest thing I did was sign up with Pro Group Management.
Really? Yeah, they do workers' comp, right?
Yeah, their services are great. And get this, they saved me 30%. I've heard they saved others 50%.
That works for me.
Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
Illegal immigration has been a major problem in this country for a long time, and we thought we'd get to the heart of the matter here. We're going to talk to Tim Peters, who's Director of Operations for New Technology Management Incorporated, and they're a prime contractor to Homeland Security, the Army, Air Force, Navy, Treasury, HUD, Department of Agriculture, and the SEC. And what they do is, in addition to other things, border surveillance. First of all, Tim, thank you for doing the show. We appreciate that. In today's paper, which we're taping on August 16th, the headline is that the governor of Arizona is approving emergency money because she says the federal government is falling down on its responsibilities along the border, and apparently New Mexico has done this just a couple of days earlier. What is the situation that's led us to this?
Well, the illegal immigration plays a large impact on Cochise County in particular, Douglas and Sierra Vista. A good example is the hospitals, who are burdened with the illegal immigration, taking care of illegals when they come across, to the point where they're not making a profit, and they're almost shutting their doors. So there's some frustration with some of the local people in this county with respect to a feeling that they're not being taken care of with respect to the burden on the community and the county.
There's also an irony that the Border Patrol drops off these illegals to these hospitals, and then once they're well, they're free to just walk away, right?
I believe that's the case, yes. And again, it's a county that we're tucked away down here in southern Arizona. So any funding that local authorities, Border Patrol, Sheriff, because there's many people involved when we talk about immigration and some of the issues. Once they cross the border and they get through that line of defense that the Border Patrol's in charge of, then the other law enforcement officials and agencies have to pick up. We have horrific car crashes here and things of that nature due to the overloading of vehicles going down Interstate 10, and so it's a problem that affects many people. This is a rural community, so you have a lot of ranchers and people that are affected by the amount of people coming through their land as well.
Let me ask you this. A common thought is, why don't we just seal the border? How realistic is that?
Well, when we say seal the border, the Border Patrol has a tough job, because I don't think people really understand how vast the border region is. It's a very vast, rugged area, and it needs to be covered. So you have to do a proper mix of people and technology. You have to put the people where they can effectively respond, and then the technology to watch those areas to give them an eye on what's going on in that border region. So once they detect, they have an indicator that somebody's going to penetrate the border, they can go and react. We can't put a man every 100 yards on the border. It's just not possible. But what we can do is we can put the technology in to take the place where we can't put people, and then use that resource where it's best to use them, and that is in the apprehension.
One of the concerns, we were talking yesterday, one of the concerns you had was, for example, if you're going to put in the National Guard, all the infrastructure that would go along with that would be cost prohibitive.
Well, one of the arguments is just use the National Guard. And, it sounds great to just use the National Guard. But for those people that don't really, understand what it takes to feed, house, equip, maintain a soldier, it's really unrealistic. If you all of a sudden flood a pristine area with National Guard, human waste, debris, how do you feed them? How do you house them in this remote area? It's a complex problem, and it's something that it takes, right now, for example, it takes 6 support soldiers to put 1 combat soldier in the field. So there's a whole infrastructure that has to be out there to support those people on the border.
What about the idea of building a wall? Is that totally unrealistic?
Well, there's certain areas where walls make sense, because what you're trying to do is channel people. If terrain dictates movement, it's an old Army way of thinking, which is that somebody's not going to come up over a cliff to get where they're going. They're going to go through those natural lines of drift, and they're going to move through areas that allow them to move and penetrate through the border. The problem is with the walls is you can tunnel under a wall, or you can find a way to breach the wall, go over the wall, go through the wall, under the wall, and that's what they do.
We're going to take a break. More with Tim Peters right after this.
For a videotape copy of any Nevada Newsmakers program, call 775-857-2244. The tapes are $20 each, including shipping.
Since its creation more than a decade ago, the Southern Nevada Water Authority has focused on 3 goals: preserving water quality, improving water conservation in Southern Nevada, and meeting the community's current and future water needs. Through thoughtful planning, responsible management, and collaboration, it's succeeding. As we move into the 21st century, the authority continues to embrace sustainable water development and efficient water use. That's our promise to Nevada.
My family started this business 27 years ago. We work hard to serve our customers and our community.
But it's getting harder and harder to keep the doors open.
For example, our workers' comp is going through the roof. Isn't anyone on my side anymore?
The Retail Association of Nevada is. If you're a small business owner, we can cut your workers' comp by up to 50%, lobby for your interests, and keep you informed. Put us to work today.
Many of the materials we rely on every day come from the ground, and modern mining technology brings them to us cleaner and safer than ever before. To learn more about America's natural resources, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
Reno's best dining values are all at one casino, the Pepper Mill. You can enjoy great savings on our popular specials. Pepper Mill's coffee shop offers daily lunch specials, low-carb dining, and all your favorite comfort foods. You'll find sensational lunch specials featuring Reno's freshest seafood, sushi, pasta, and more at Oceano. And early bird specials at Reno's Premier Steakhouse and Romanza Ristorante Italiano. The best values are at the Pepper Mill. Where are you dining?
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
Back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're talking with Tim Peters, who's Director of Operations for New Technology Management Incorporated, a prime contractor to Homeland Security involved in border surveillance. Let me ask you a couple of questions here. Realistically, the President has proposed a guest worker program. There's been a lot of complaints about this. Personally, I think it's a great idea. What are your thoughts from the professional end of things?
Well, I have some experience working down in Central and South America, and
about 17 years.
About 17 years, right, with the Army Special Forces. And one of the things that I did learn is if you don't have a mechanism, a lawful mechanism, what you do is you establish unlawful mechanisms, black market, trade markets. And that's pretty much what's been established here. Is even though there's a legal worker program for workers to come across the border, I don't believe it's an easy program for every worker to get into in Mexico, for example. So this black market infiltration mechanism, this illegal activity of pushing them through the border is kind of the norm for a lot of people. It's what their relatives do, their friends do. They go and see Jose, and Jose gets them into the system and gets them across the border. So you establish these mechanisms. My feeling is make it, if there's a need, if there's a bona fide need, which we know there is, we want them to come over and we want them to work here, then we have to put in a legal, lawful system that allows them to do that. At the same time, we have to put pressure on those foreign governments to support us. I mean, let's face facts. There's a lot of money that travels back across the border into Mexico, and those officials there, I'm sure, you know, are happy that we are a big part of their gross national product.
It's about what, 35%?
I believe it's somewhere in the 30% range of their GNP of money coming back across the border. So you know, this is big money, and so my feeling is to curb it. Let's make a program that's fair to everyone, and then let's hold everybody that this is the law. And and those that are not willing to go along with the plan, well, then they should suffer the consequences of not going along with the plan.
Let me hit you up with a couple of things. One thing that I just found out, which I find just incredible, is that if somebody comes into this country who is not, and through the southern border, who is not a Mexican citizen, because you send back the Mexican citizens back to Mexico, but if they're not from Mexico, they basically get a ticket and to appear in court?
Well, I'm not an expert on all the immigration laws and the way that things are done, but yeah, I think there are loopholes, and there are ways that people fall down through the system, and like you say, a lot of people, when they do get apprehended whether they're illegal or they're in here underneath some type of program that's expired or whatever, if they do get caught, and again, if the city that they're working in, the police are even able to arrest them, or they do get a ticket, yeah, they've got to go face a judge at federal court, or somebody to determine their disposition. And again, this gets into the different laws within INS.
But essentially, they're not put in prison because there's no room in the prisons. So they're given a ticket. They're free to go. What percentage actually shows up in the courtroom?
Well, I know. I would assume. I don't know the exact percentage, but I would assume that it would be a low percentage because now they're back into the general public where they go until they get caught again. It goes to. I think it goes back to our courts and our laws as far as what's a felony offense versus a misdemeanor offense and things of that nature. But
and this law's been on the books for 100 years, right?
I believe so.
Okay, let me ask you about another thing, which I found out, again, we were at a briefing with you yesterday. People complain a lot about the amount of cargo that's coming to this country in containers that's not being inspected. But in fact, you're saying that a lot of this is inspected before it ever leaves its port of debarkation.
Yeah, you can go on the Customs website, U.S. Customs website, and find out about their programs. But Customs is very aggressive in some of these programs, and their container programs. We have customs officials, U.S. officials, that are at these foreign ports of call that actually work with officials to inspect, and then they've got different container programs where they seal the containers, and they're pretty much inspected coming into the U.S. before they ever get here. So yeah, there are these programs, there's cargo programs, U.S. Fast, and different programs that are out there to help get, a cargo that's been inspected through our borders in an efficient manner.
Well, I thank you very much for helping clear up a lot of misunderstandings about what's actually going on along our southern border. We appreciate it.
Well, I'd just like to close by saying that New Technology Management is a company that is dedicated to make our borders a more safe and secure area, and we will do everything to help local, state, and federal law enforcement.
And I have to cut you off here, otherwise I have to charge you for a commercial. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks.
We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
How long does it take to get to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park? Well, it's just 10 minutes east of Reno's Park on Highway 80, just minutes from the airport. And under construction is an interchange linking I-80 to TRI's 4-lane USA Parkway. And soon, this parkway will connect Interstate 80 to Highway 50. How far is the world's largest industrial center from your home? It's a lot closer than you think. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, building economic prosperity for Nevadans.
The Nevada Beer Wholesalers encourages the responsible consumption of beer. The Nevada Beer Wholesalers Association are sponsors and participants in many community-based efforts such as school education programs, safe ride home, recycling programs, alcohol-free after-prom and graduation parties, safe boating campaigns, and designated driver programs. They are family-owned businesses employing 2,000 Nevadans. They also collect and pay the state excise tax. The Nevada Beer Wholesalers Association, delivering more than just beer.
So, who do you use for workers' comp?
Pro Group Management.
Ah, I've heard some good things about them.
You bet. Employee background checks, safety training, claim seminars. Oh, and here's the great part. If you have an issue, they work for you, not against you.
Sounds perfect. And expensive.
Well, that's the best part. They saved me 30%. I've heard they've saved others 50%.
Works for me. Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you. Something spectacular has taken wing not far from Reno or Lake Tahoe, and never far from your mind. An escape of fine dining and legendary golf. Introducing the resort at Red Hawk. And at the center of it all, we've feathered our nest with new villas that have elevated Red Hawk to the status of a premier resort. The Resort at Red Hawk, a beautiful new arrival in northern Nevada.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And a terrific Power Pundit panel, as always. Dick Gammick is here, Washoe County District Attorney. Bill Welch joins us. He's President and CEO of the Nevada Hospital Association, and Fred Hillerby, who is a lawyer and lobbyist. Welcome to the program to all of you. Ray, I wanted to start out with you.
Okay.
You had an interesting story in today's Reno Gazette-Journal. One of the meetings of the Washoe County School District talking about the effects of property taxes and the cap. There seemed to be a huge gap between what they thought they'd be missing out on.
Well, that was even before the legislature put in the property tax cap. Now, the school district officials across the state, especially in Clark and Washoe, are really concerned about the property tax cap and its effect on funding for school construction, because that's where you get the money from the property tax. The county now is going through millions and over a million different sets of equations to set this up. School officials fear that the property tax cap would cost them annually anywhere between $10 million and $250 million.
That's a huge gap.
Yes, it is a huge gap. And if it's up on the $250 million, and it's going to be devastating for school construction in Washoe County. That is why school district officials for the 07 session, they want to get, number one, impact fees on new homes, real estate transfer fees on existing home sales, and also to raise the property tax level throughout the state to allow them for more bonding capacity. These things are these are all new taxes. I think they're going to face an uphill fight in the legislature.
Okay, Fred, what are you thinking about this?
Well, yeah, new taxes in the legislature is going to be very difficult. You know, I haven't seen all those numbers, but it was interesting to me during the debate in the 05 session, all the discussion and the hand-wringing that was going on, because we were still talking about allowing room for growth, just capping that growth and appreciation. It wasn't like we were capping it like Prop 13 did, as some people in our state are now advocating. So there was still room for growth, but just a cap on that. So, you know, I haven't seen all the numbers, but if they're coming forward with the idea that you're going to pass a lot of new taxes in our legislature, I don't think that's going to happen.
You know, Bill, your industry was picked on in the last session quite strongly. You know, how do you feel when you hear these numbers?
That's concerning to the hospital community from the standpoint that having adequate funding for education is important. It's been demonstrated multiple times that the more educated that you help your society become, the healthier they generally are. So that certainly would be a concern to us. Secondly, there are many social programs that are supported through the tax base, and as these social programs are either not expanded to accommodate the growth or they reduce their program designs, this drives patients who ultimately need primary care or basic health care services to the hospital ERs. So it's very concerning to us.
Well, and that was another story in the Gazette-Journal today was about that, which is that the hospitals are suffering greatly because people don't have health insurance, and therefore instead of going to a regular doctor or an emergency care, they're going to the emergency room.
That's absolutely correct. Nevada, the last statistic that I have seen showed Nevada being fourth in the nation as far as the number of uninsured population. That number is growing. These are individuals who have difficulty getting access to a private outpatient primary care delivery system. They ultimately end up in our ERs. We have studied this over the last several years, and more than 50% of the patients who present themselves to hospital ERs are there for primary basic medical care, not emergent care.
Okay, so Dick, when you look at this, do you think at some point that we start to rue the property tax cap?
Well, I think we're headed down a road we may not want to go down in this state, Sam, because we not only got the property tax cap this last session, but we have assembly people now looking at a Colorado-type program where they just shut taxes down. We've got Prop 13 issues coming up again where people are talking about shutting down other kinds of taxes. And you've got to have a revenue to run a government. And even though I was told by Ray one day I sound like a Democrat, I'm not a tax and spend person, but you've got to have so much revenue or you don't run these services. And the hospitals are a great example. If all these people keep coming in and the hospitals have to keep absorbing that, there comes a break time somewhere. And the same thing with the schools. If you don't have this money in the fastest growing state in the union to build the schools and to put in the infrastructure, we've got some real serious issues coming up.
You know, Sam, if I might,
no, please.
I want to be sure you and your audience understand, I'm not saying that Fred Hillerby believes there shouldn't be enough revenue, because I agree with Dick and Bill for a lot of the same reasons. You asked me sort of my assessment of what the legislature might do faced with new taxes again, and I still think there's enough memory of the pain and so on that they went through in 03 that I think the legislature is going to be very reluctant to increase taxes.
Are you going to see a diversion of the gaming taxes and the sales taxes to the school system?
You know, I'm not sure, Sam. I'm not sure whether, you know, that's a structural issue that some of which is constitutional and so on that would have to be addressed, and I don't know whether that gets diverted or not.
You know, I think the big thing here, if there's any legislators who live in these new developments in the Reno-Sparks area, if they have children and their children are going to be bused to the inner city schools or the urban schools in downtown Reno, they're going to think twice about these taxes that are being proposed.
Okay, and that's all we got time for. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
South Reno's hotspot for food, fun, and friends is the Tamarack Junction. Play over 480 of the hottest slots and video poker games. Enjoy hot times and sizzling food specials at Sully's Sports Bar, Grill, and Nightclub. Watch your favorite game on one of our jumbo high-definition plasma TVs. Enjoy great food 24 hours a day in the Dining Car Restaurant. Or sample the best hot and cold sandwiches in the Whistle Stop Deli. The Tamarack Junction is your junction for fun. South Virginia and Amati Ranch Parkway. Yeah.
Dave, I'm telling you, it's all in the follow-through.
Actually, Dave, it's all in the putting.
No matter how you swing, it's a classic opportunity to play for local organizations.
That's why we're teeing off in the Kest Classic at Wolf Run on September 15th. Arch Tournament will benefit Care Chest of Sierra Nevada, providing free medical supplies to those in need, and help our local Seroptimists support the community.
Hey, Dave, you've got the perfect score.
Happy hour at the Peppermill.
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org. The National Mining Association.
Don't forget you can watch Nevada Newsmakers online at nevadanewsmakers.com. On our next show, Brendan Traynor will give us the libertarian opinion of why we should get rid of the Patriot Act, and perhaps some opposition for Congressman John Porter. Stan Hunterton will be here. Join us on our next show.